Some energy drinks want to scare you. Some even want to bully you around. And the others, they're just blowing smoke. Packed with vitamins B3, B5, B6, and B12, the new HiQ energy drink comes available in 4 exciting flavors. Skyberry Fusion, Apple, Coconut Fruit Punch, and Lemon Lime. Natural caffeine, no preservatives, no crash, no bull. HiQ energy drink. Wings are for birds.
Rudo Apparel powers teams and athletes around the world by offering the best in customer uniforms at an unbeatable price. Visit RudoApparel.com or give them a call today at 347-850-2720 to build your one-of-a-kind uniform made just the way you want. Rudo Apparel, the #1 shop for custom uniforms and apparel. That's 347-850-2720.
Welcome to Simple Health Radio, the podcast about recognizing medical emergencies and promoting wellness throughout your journey in life. Your host is Dr. Emran, a respected physician who's treated thousands of people just like you over the past 10 years. Listen to the show each week on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and 3 and Out Radio Network. Information provided on this show is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Always discuss your questions with your doctor or go to your nearest emergency room immediately.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me today on Simple Health Radio. I am your host, Dr. Emran. On today's episode, we have a very special guest. He is a filmmaker, and he is the writer, producer, and director of a very controversial documentary entitled Cancer Can Be Killed. This is something very relevant to our society, and there's a lot of information on his documentary that a lot of our audience may find beneficial. So I'm very pleased today to have a guest. His name is Jeff Weitzman. Are you there, Jeff?
Yes. Hi, Dr. Emran.
Very good. Thank you so much for making time to speak with us today. Tell us a little bit about Cancer Can Be Killed. Tell us about how the idea came up for this documentary and sort of the process behind it.
Yeah, so I had been an actor, a musician, and a Los Angeles, and had kind of worked in the business, but I had never been a filmmaker. But 3 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with bladder cancer, and it was stage 2 or 3, so it had moved into the muscle wall of the bladder. And at that point, what we do in the United States is we say the bladder needs to be removed because there's no way to get all the cancer without removing. At that point, doctors told my wife, who at the time was 53 years old, they said, we need to remove your bladder. Followed by chemo and radiation, you have a 50% chance of survival. And you're either going to have a bag on the side of your body to catch the urine, or you're going to have a new bladder made out of intestine, which has complications. And it just sounded horrible to us. So her sister had malignant melanoma, 6 months to live, about 5 years prior. She went to Germany to treat her melanoma naturally with focused heat, IV nutrients, and oxygen. And he came back from Germany cancer-free. So no chemo, no radiation surgery, and she was cancer-free. And she told us, guys, you need to go to Germany. Don't even mess with removing organs here in the States. So we went to Germany, and 30 days there is with focused heat, IV nutrients, oxygen therapy. My wife was completely gone in 30 days. And we came back to the States, and we had to tell everyone about this, Everybody, there's a better way to do this. So I wrote an article. The article went viral. Filmmakers started how to make a film about this. And then gradually, when they realized how difficult it is to go up against the medical lobby and the pharmaceutical lobby, they all pulled out of it. And they realized this is not a good move for us in Hollywood to be going against, the very people that are funding so much of our work. So they said, Jeff, you make the film. We'll back you on it and mentor you through it. So that's what got me started. And the film was on my part to find out, better options to treat cancer than the ones which are, seemingly barbaric. That is cutting organs out of bodies, using toxic treatments like chemo and radiation. And, does this natural cancer treatment really work? So that's what I had to find out with the film.
Well, that's a fascinating story. Personally, I'm an ER physician, and so I'm not an oncologist, but I will say that I believe the incidence of bladder cancer is actually rising. My understanding is that this specific type of cancer is very invasive and aggressive. it's actually affecting younger and younger people. Would you say that's accurate based on the research that you've also come across?
That is the same thing. I have cancer as well as on the rise.
Yes, sir. And then,
so absolutely, same. I'm hearing the same thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then tell us a little bit about some of the natural cancer treatment and what the science or the biology is behind that.
Right. So there is a process called hyperthermia, which is just using focused heat. It's using radio waves. It's not using radiation. So there's nothing toxic. What we've been finding scientifically is that cancer cells are more vulnerable to certain things than regular cells. So, for example, cancer cells don't like oxygen and they don't like heat. And normal cells like both. A normal cell can survive at least to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. A cancer cell down at 105 degrees Fahrenheit. So what hyperthermia does is it focuses the heat to a specific area hotter than 105 degrees. So none of the other cells are getting damaged, but the cancer cells are getting damaged. And we can actually kill these cells in a specific area. And so once the film came out, the CEO of the largest hyperthermia company in America, it's called Pyrexar, the CEO and said, Jeff, I can't get the FDA to allow me to test hyperthermia as a standalone procedure. They only allow hyperthermia on head and neck tumors and only in conjunction with chemo and radiation. And, it's a head scratcher because you're like, well, wait a minute. We've already got the science, right? The cancer cells are vulnerable 105 degrees and normal cells aren't. Why would the FDA not allow testing? And, of course, if you follow them, you find out that the FDA, their job really is to protect business and to protect patent owners. Their job is not to find the latest, greatest new way of treating cancer. And so they're always going to be behind the times. I mean, it's sometimes 10 years for a clinical trial to go through and come to fruition, and it can take 30 million. But as consumers of cancer and want to get treated in a healthy way, we have to look at what the system offers us and say, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. The FDA is in business to protect business. For me, if I have cancer, now I have to go out there and do all the research myself and find out where the latest and the greatest methods are being done. And so the evidence is great with focused heat, the hyperthermia. We found that IV nutrients strengthen the immune system, and then the immune system flushes out the cancer. And again, we find out that cancer cells are vulnerable to oxygen. That was discovered back in the 30s by Otto Warburg. He won a Nobel Prize for that. So the science is there, and now it's just a matter of for us, at that science and go, oh, okay, well, I guess that informs, I have to go out there and do all the research myself and find out where the latest and the greatest methods are being done. And so the evidence is great with focused heat, the hyperthermia. We found that IV nutrients strengthen the immune system, and then the immune system flushes out the cancer. And again, we find out that cancer cells are vulnerable to oxygen. That was discovered back in the 30s by Otto Warburg. He won a Nobel Prize for that. So the science is there. And now it's just a matter of for us at that science and go, oh, okay, well, I guess that informs my decision of where to get treated.
Yes, sir. I understand. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm not an oncologist, but I'm sure that your family member and other people in your situation have a team of oncologists. So there might be one lead oncologist, and they discuss the case with other specialists, and then there's usually some radiation oncologist and other people that are involved, like a surgeon and so forth. So when your wife came back from Germany and she was cancer-free or in remission, what was their response? What sort of feedback did you get from her own healthcare team at that point?
Right. So the urologist said, I stand behind what we said as a treatment method. He had curiosity, and he said that everything we do here in the States is for a reason and to be effective, and that what we did was basically rolling the dice and was unproven. So for us, that was a signal to go to a different urologist, and found a urologist about an hour away. His name is Dr. Rajaratnam. He's open to a variety of treatment methods, aid to the Western medical system as being the only option, and he, in fact, looks for other ways of doing things. So I think it's always a matter of team that's right for you, and in our case, we had to see, because the team that we had was a team not open to new ways of doing things.
I understand, certainly. And as I mentioned, as an oncologist, that's a whole separate specialty. And those are people who are very knowledgeable. They have PhDs, they write papers and publish and so on. And a lot of oncology is changing, I believe, because of new research techniques and genetics and testing and so forth. So I think we're going to have a lot of stories similar to the ones that you've described, not just from the United States, but my understanding is that other countries may actually have the lead in some of the cutting-edge research. For example, as you mentioned, Germany is very, very far ahead. Places like Brazil have a large number of oncologists, not just from the United States, but my understanding is that other countries may actually have the lead in some of the cutting-edge research. For example, as you mentioned, Germany is very, very far ahead. Places like Brazil have a large number of oncologists, and even countries like China, Japan, India, and so on, even though their resources are different, I think that their level of education is at a point where they may surpass the United States, and their technology may actually be a step ahead in some specialties. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that, but have you seen other countries in sort of a similar pattern as what you saw in Germany?
Yes, Dr. Emran, I have. The data that I'm getting is coming from Israel, Egypt, and Sweden. So with you that the testing that's being done seems to be more liberated than the testing that's done here. For example, the testing they've done with cannabis as a cancer killer has been really amazing and startling to me. And they're actually using cannabis in their hospitals in Israel. And then Egypt has been doing some amazing studies with something called selenium and finding that selenium, we don't need for selenium to be effective. And they're using selenium with things like, and this Chinese herb called qigong, and they're having these great results in these research studies. You're right. It's available around the world, and thank God for the internet, because now we can get access to these studies.
Excellent. Very good. And then you have a website called cancercanbekilled.com, and is that the link for people to actually watch your documentary and get connected with some additional resources? Yeah.
So cancercanbekilled.com, they'll watch the film on Amazon Prime Videos or iTunes, Google Play, or Vimeo On Demand. Film's available worldwide, so they can find the links to it there on the website. And then also on the website are articles and videos and recipes for smoothies, just a variety of things that can help people to play and improve their immune system.
Excellent. Very good. And as I mentioned, I'm an ER physician, so I'm not an oncologist, and I always have to give a disclaimer that if someone is diagnosed with any health condition, whether it's a heart problem, kidney problem, or any form of cancer, it's okay to get other perspectives. It's okay to get other information and a second opinion or a third opinion. But always keep your original doctors involved in that so they know what you're thinking, they know what your plans are, and always update your pharmacist and other members of your healthcare team. So I can't always say that this method is proven and that method is disproven as an ER doctor, but I am open to other possibilities on how to treat these conditions. So always keep your healthcare team advised before you make any drastic changes. And then in closing, we just have a few minutes left. Do you have some final thoughts? Do you have some conversation points or some things to really think about that you want our listeners to be aware of?
Yes. The moment a person gets a cancer diagnosis, I think the most important thing is that they be sort of the leader of the team. So all the doctors are team members, and the person who has the cancer and maybe a loved one, a spouse, they become the captain of the Starship Enterprise, if it were. They become the ones that are steering the ship. And so if a person sort of sits back and says, "Oh, doctor, please just tell me what to do. I'm so afraid," people are having less success than the people, "Okay, doctor, I really want your opinion here. I value you know, your opinion, the years you've spent learning, but I have to be the one in charge here. If I'm the one in charge, I'm the one who has the power, and that's going to be the best thing for me." So, for example, what we found is that doctors, once the doctors for my friend who had prostate cancer, and this was featured in the film, medical center said, "I think we're going to advise you to have your prostate removed, followed by chemo and radiation. I heard about this other way of dealing with it in Germany, just heat. And what would you think of that?" The doctor center said, "I think that's actually a good option. Well, that first. Why don't you try that first?" That's what he did, and he came back and he was cancer-free. And so, the moral of the story, like you're saying, keep your doctors in the loop. Don't exclude them. If you decide to do something different, bring them in. Get their most important fact. The most important thing is your patients stay at the helm of the ship. They need to be the driver. They need to be the one who's saying, "I'm going to determine what's best for me, but I want your information."
Excellent. Very good. No, I think those are very wise words. So those of you just joining us today,